Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools in Brandon takes pride in selling the tools farmers and tradespeople rely on. Like our Winnipeg location, Brandon carries the same tools you know and love. From all the brands you can trust, all in one convenient place. And with unbeatable service, we'll make sure you get the right tools to get the job done. Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools in Brandon, proud to serve Brandon's industrial needs since 2018. Stop on by today at 358 Park Avenue East. Well, good afternoon, Buffaloes Nation, and welcome into the return of the Buffaloes podcast for Season 2, Episode 25 here on the G Show Productions YouTube channel as well as on gshow.ca. I'm your host, Graham, the G Show Forsyth. We're brought to you by Ken Fasteners and Tools, Ken Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Terrico, and Goaltenders. Goaltenders owner Gordy Tummelson going to be joining the show as the only guest in this episode, and yeah. We'll explain a bit later in the show, but it's been a wild past few weeks. We're also gonna explain it. Yeah, at the start of Gordy Tullson's interview a bit, as that was pre-recorded a few days ago now. But yeah, we're excited to get this episode out on Friday, still this week. Lots of great content coming up in this episode. We're going to be talking about some championship success, as congratulations to the U17 Prep Buffaloes, as they ended up running the table and winning the CSSHL U17 Prep Division 2 Championship. Congratulations to all those young men who ended up taking home that banner, and great that they were also able to have the female Buffaloes, the U18 preps, and support for them behind them in that championship picture with the squad raising that banner. And yeah, Colin Frederick was phenomenal in these playoffs for this Buffaloes team. So many players stepped up, and for Rick McConnell and his coaching staff, they gotta be just extremely pleased and proud with how things worked out this year in British Columbia in the CSSHL playoffs. Gordy Tummelson and we're gonna start off with talking about that, as well as the U15s, the success they had in the playoffs last weekend, as well as the U18 female prep Buffaloes. And we're not going to get into the U18 male prep Buffs, as they're officially in the playoff action now. We will be getting into that next week. But yeah, with that being said, lots of great stuff that me and Gordon Tomlinson get into on episode 25, season 2 of the Buffaloes podcast, the return of this show to the G Show Productions YouTube channel and on gshow.ca. And it's Gordy Tummelson joining his weekly segment of the Buffaloes podcast. As we're on a bit of a wonky schedule here at G Show Productions, pay-per-view content with the MMJHL has kind of been taking priority, something new that we're kind of testing right now. But Gordy, as for this Buffaloes team, we're talking about playoffs and championships, and for the U17s, like we said last week, they always seem to start off with a loss, but always finish strong, and strong they did, taking home this year's Division 2 banner in the CSSHL U17 Prep Division. Take us through how it all happened for this U17 group.
Wow, what a thrilling start for our playoff guys and gals this year. Yeah, the U17s went out and did exactly what they do every time they play in these playoffs. They go lose the first game, and we wonder why in the heck did we have to lose the first game? But after that, they seem to bear down. I don't know if Rick McConnell and Danny Carls have got special water that the kids drink or whatever it is, but they go out and they play and they win their games. And of course, the exciting game was the semifinal. They needed to win. They were down 3-1 with 3 minutes less than 3 minutes to go in the game. They got a goal, got another one, tied the game up, and then young Mr. Friedrich, number 46, went in and popped the winner in overtime with 1 second to go in the 5 minute overtime. My gosh, the heart's beating. As I said to them, to the coaches, I said, I'm going to have to get a defibrillator here for me. I'm getting too old for this stuff. So, so, but it was exciting and thrilling. And yeah, the kids lost the first one, won four in a row. And thank you very much. We're, we're now champions, and thank you. And so, and they kicked the butt off the team that in the final. I mean, 7-0. It was a wonderful game by our guys. We're still, I guess, riding the high from the day before. So, other team didn't have a hope. So there you go. We won, and we're champions again in that U17, and that's the second time for Rick. So good on him and those guys. Those coaches work really hard every day to prepare these kids for just this kind of thing, and they've done a great job.
Feel like, I mean, it's huge for this group too, with how many first year players came into this year's program for Rick McConnell. And they're able to come away with running the table and taking home a championship. But just, I feel like it's kind of, speaking of this U17 team, it speaks a lot to just how they played all season long in terms of having to come back in that semifinals matchup against St. George's, and then of course starting off the playoffs with the 4-2 loss to North Shore, and then defeating them 7-0. So how fitting is this, Gordy, for this group? The way they did it to finish the way they did, battling adversity and finishing strong as they would all season long while bouncing back in games.
Yeah, battling their own adversity. We talk about adversity. Well, no one threw adversity at them. They threw their own adversity at themselves. They didn't show up for the first game, and it showed. And then they showed up for everything else. And guess what? That's playoff hockey. I mean, we all know it's different. My God, you've got and I don't understand anybody. And if guys, I guess if you don't experience it, you don't really know it. But at the end of the day, the only way to experience is to go out and play it and just play your feet off. You just keep going and you try hard and you block shots and you do everything because you have to. The other team's going to do the same thing. And my gosh, if you don't, then you don't win this thing. And you don't even win it necessarily because you do all that, but you certainly have a better chance. And so these kids did a great job of picking it up in game two, realizing that if you lose another one, you're out. You're not doing anything else, and so go for it. And they did. They got a win, and then they got another win, and then they win. And the huge win in the semifinal. I mean, that's almost. There's two ways of looking at this. You've either used everything you've got in the semifinal, and you've got nothing left, or you're just riding a high and you're just going to smoke the next team that they play against, and that's exactly what they did. So you almost feel bad for North Shore. Our kids probably didn't sleep. They just went out and played another great game and won it. So it's amazing. It's great for our program, by the way. I haven't mentioned that to have a Division II champion. I mean, people look around and say, "Well, what have you done? What has your academy done? What has your teams done?" Well, we just won a championship, and we got another one to talk about, almost championship in a minute here. So, we our program is good. The players get better. That's really what mom and dad should care about. But it seems like in Canada, it's all about team. We know that in politics, and now we know that and we could continue to know that in hockey and in any other sport that we play here. nationally in particular, is that it's about team. If team does good, everybody feels good, and so yep, good on our guys to help promote our and help our recruitment program by winning the championship.
Yeah, and I mean, players who stepped up for Pilot Mountain too, they're best players, right, Gordy? Players like Colin Frederick, who led the team in points this season and led the team in playoff points. Players like Luke Adams having over a point per game, Brody Watink, defenseman with over a point per game as well, and of course the goaltending big time for this team. But given that there's opportunity for players in this program to move up next year to the U18s, there's going to be, of course, some players come back in this program next year. I'm assuming that Frederick could be one of them. But yeah, I guess the outlook moving forward for this team, looking to build off of this year and go for another championship again next year.
Well, this is the whole deal, right? You know, when you win something like this, you yourself as a player feel really good about more good about the program you're in. And so I'm going to say that 100% of our players, maybe not 100%, but 90% of our players have been offered the opportunity to come back next year. Um, and either in the U17 program or the U18 program. I hope that's the case. I don't have that information in front of me. That's not part of what I do, and it's kept pretty close to the vest in in management, those kinds of things. But in the meantime, all those kids are winners now, and that bodes well for wanting to come back or should come back because they know how to win, they know how to lead. Those are important things you just cannot pay for or purchase, as a team or as a parent. You're and so yeah, we've got kids that are now capable of winning, and they're going to sit on both teams, and that's just going to make our program better. And of course, that all goes to recruitment in the end as well.
Yeah, and for an academy that's trying to gain traction, this U17 program has done a lot for this academy with the emergence of course, Carson Carroll's last season and the time he was there in the academy, and then now getting the second championship in this U17 prep program's history. Congratulations to these young men on making more history for the Buffaloes down in BC this past weekend. Gordy, we're going to talk about all other teams in the playoffs right now, about their results. The U15 is excited to talk about them specifically. That's coming up next on this edition of the Buffaloes podcast, the official Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy podcast, with myself and Gordy Thompson. Stick around. Welcome back to the Buffaloes podcast with myself and Gordy Tummelson. Gordy, the U15s, they've had themselves a strong start to their playoffs, of course. We talked about how regular season doesn't matter at all at this point, and truly didn't as they slid heading into the playoffs. But they start off with three straight wins, two big ones, a closer one against the Notre Dame Hounds. They also played against Okanagan Hockey Academy as well in a game that isn't reported on Pile Mountain's website yet. But it seems like this U15 group, Colin Fafara and company, have to be pleased with the results here.
Well, they lost last night in the final against OHA. Sadly, however, up to that game, of course they'd won their games, and they won their two league game or their two round robin games, I guess. They won their playoff game. And have moved on here with and lost 4-2 last night to as we speak here on Wednesday morning. I guess we should say that they lost on Tuesday evening or late afternoon to Okanagan 4-2. So we had two teams in the championship round in the Tier 2 division, which is great in the CSSHL. And of course, this is a fairly new program at Pilot. I mean, this is our fourth year in the U15 program. So good on us to look to be that good. We certainly rode the coattails of probably five players all year mostly, and then some really strong
Mhm.
individual kids coming along as we went. Defenseman Boers, Ramage, and Landerville on the forward line, and our two goalkeepers were good all year long. I mean, all five of those guys kind of were the foundation, and then all the other kids figured it out, and it they all came together. Got to give yeah, head coach Colin Fafara and longtime coach in Pilot Mound resident and person Brad Platt for doing a great job of bringing that team along. They didn't have a lot of superstars or a lot of AAA quality kids going in, but they've turned them out. Again, Landerville and Ramage were phenomenal on the forward side of things. Points, all the points they got.
Yeah.
Boers brilliant on defense all year long. Along with his defense partners, they got better. And then again, the goalkeepers were steady as a rock for the most part. So, yeah, congratulations to them. And again, that puts us in a place where we haven't been before to have that kind of quality team and kids looking to go somewhere when they're U15 kids. Wow, Pilot Mountain looks like they got a program. Look where they are. Look what they did, and we were only one win away from being in the top tier. We were 11th out of 10, that's that's too bad. Yeah, the scores would have been different and we wouldn't have won four games, but nonetheless, our kids showed up and played really, really well in this tier two thing and we're proud of them and our recruitment will show that, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, and I mean, a chance for this program to start growing even more so now, Gordy, that there is this type of success, I think, this season. And I think we might have talked about it last week too, but how huge it was for them, maybe for their confidence to end up in a division like this. Like you just talked about, the games could have been different if they made it into the top division, given that they were playing teams in this division too that were maybe more so on their level overall. But given that this team's able to go on a run, build confidence, and really show out, I mean, how huge is that for, I guess, going into next season for this program, given that the players they'll have coming back will be back and the other players will have a chance to move up potentially to the U17 program?
Sure. Well, I mean, that's the way this works. We're going to have a few kids come back, play with us next year. Good on us. And then we'll be able to add some good players in coming in underneath. We've got our ID camps coming up later this month. And so if anybody's out there wanting to know that, just go on the website. It's right there in the front page. Our ID camps and all the social media, pilotmountainhockeyacademy.com. But at the end of the day, yeah, we got a bunch of kids moving up, and we've got a bunch, and some kids sticking around. And again, they're pretty close to being champions. They played in the big game. They know what it feels like. They came up a little bit short, but so what? That's okay. You learn from those experiences. You don't always learn from winning. And as you said, Graham, and I said earlier, that was probably the best thing for us is to play in that the tier two thing. Nice to be first seed in that one, and we showed up. I mean, you can be first seed and lose three games in a row and be out. So, we showed up and played, and that's a good thing. And good on the CSSHL. I got to say this. They we talked about this last week. Is that they put in a banner? They didn't just go play games. They had a championship, so they got a championship round. The feel is there, the intensity is there. That builds character. Win or lose, you build character. You learn to handle it one way or the other. So good on the CSHL for doing that, and how helping these kids get a better experience.
And I think it's massive too because this is a development league, right? And you need to
It is.
develop and playoff hockey no matter what tier you may be in. And I think that, yeah, it seems like there's been just a lot of great games all around in the CSSHL playoffs to start off. And Pilot Mound, their U17 and U15 prep boys groups have been making some noise for sure. As for a team that had more disappointment compared to success in their playoffs, I guess, were the U18 prep female Buffaloes who still competed and battled in close games, Gordy, but take us through a more disappointing weekend for this group compared to the first two we've talked about.
Yeah, the girls team lost three, total 5 goals in all 3 games of the losses. So, they had 3 games that were all different. They lost their first game 5-3. Second game 8-6. A lot of goals scored. We don't normally score 6 goals. We chased Balmoral Hall all over the ice and couldn't catch them, but we did our best there. And then the final game was 1-0, overtime loss, and it was kind of a microcosm of the season. We couldn't get a break, didn't get a break. And our team wasn't the best team in the world, and sometimes you don't get breaks when you're not the best team in the world. But boy, we could have used one. Just anything good happening to these kids because they worked really hard. This is a hard-working group of girls that just gave everything all season long. I got to congratulate the coaching staff, Ryan Carls and Kurt Fortney, for doing a phenomenal job of getting this team to where they got to. And I'll tell you what, this U18 female league is getting better. It's not getting worse. They keep attracting more and better players all the time, and with that, it's harder to catch up. When you're at the bottom, you're trying to move up, and they keep getting better. So you take a step up, they take 1 or 2 steps up. So it's a chase, and we're working at that. Any girls out there that are interested in playing academy hockey, AAA quality kids, got to be able to skate. You got to have a good hockey IQ. We'd love to talk to you. We have an ID camp later in this month for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, for a group that it's kind of been trying to figure out more in terms of, trying to get better in the standings, I guess. Of course, they've developed some good players still, but they've kind of been, I guess, behind two of the academies at least. But this is still a group that's made it to a championship before, looking to get back there at some point. And Gord, taking a look at this year's graduating list, they're going to lose their top scorer in Ashlyn Cuffler, some quality players, but still some quality coming back. How huge was, I guess, this whole playoff experience, as we've talked about before, for this group and the girls that are going to be back next year, feeling that disappointment and wanting to right the wrongs next year.
Well, yeah, the kids coming back, we hope we'll get a bunch of them back. I'm sure most of them have got offers to come back, and that'll be great to have them. That's the whole idea of, we don't have all 17-year-olds, U18 kids. We have some 15-year-olds, some 16-year-olds, and some 17-year-olds. And that way we can kind of roll kids up and we don't get caught having to find 20 new players every year. So hopefully the players learned enough and that they'll come back and be better next year and help us to move up the ladder a little bit. This U18 female team, and I will say this, our U17s back in 2020, the girls team were in the finals just prior to 2020 and in the league, and so we were really good there. Our U17 male team won the thing in 2020, 2 days before COVID hit. And I'll tell you what, and COVID had, disastrous things for people, lives and sick and dying and horrible stuff. But taking it backwards into our hockey program, it really hurt us going forward. People weren't traveling the next year or the year after, in particular the small towns. I know Notre Dame and Prairie and places like that really suffered as well, just because people weren't going to small places. They were going to stay home. And so to fill the void, you were taking players that might not have the quality. And trying to ramp that up and look and get better is really hard because people look at your results. And of course, the big city teams are kicking our butts because all the good players are staying there. They're not venturing out, and so it really hurt us and the girls team and the boys team. But yeah, we're coming back. We're going to be better every year. That's the plan, and that's what we're working towards.
Yeah, and some quality players that have an opportunity to return to this program. next year, Gordy. But talking about the coaching staff, Ryan Carroll's and Danny Carroll's. No, sorry, I'm gonna repeat that. Talking about the coaching staff and Kurt Fortney and Ryan Carroll's, of course. Like you said, a lot of credit goes to them. But how huge do you think it is for the academy? We've talked about it before, but now to have some consistency in that U18 female prep coaching staff positions specifically, and given that the system they've instilled this year, how huge that is to have those building blocks in place for the future moving forward.
Well, hoping that the coaches are back next year. You never know from year to season, but I understand that's the case. But I guess we'll find out when contracts are signed or whatever they do to say yes or no. The season's not just coming to an end. We still have, by the way, for the folks out there who don't know, we still have 2 months more of development. The kids don't just quit playing hockey because it's March the 15th and you stop playing, or you go home for Easter and you come back and twiddle your thumbs for the next 3 months. No, 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 no. They're on the ice, I think, 3 times a week through April and May. And of course, they play spring sports in the school or in the community. And so there's some things there. But at the end of the day, they're still on the ice quite a bit. And they're still working on their skating skills, their puck handling skills, passing skills, goaltending skills, et cetera, et cetera. So, we don't just drop them off, and say, well, that's it. So the coaching staff will still be out. They'll still be working on things. And because we know that the players, the girls and everybody else, want to get better. And so that's part of development, I guess. And the word development's, has been used a lot. That's what minor hockey is. That's what minor sports is. You're developing into something better, I suppose. But at the end of the day, we're still working hard. And so Coach Carls and Fortney have got some work to do along with their other guys as well. So looking forward to continuing the getting better process.
Yeah, and also looking forward to talking about the development process coming up in the upcoming episodes with you, Gordy, since we'll be kind of shifting our focus into next season in the upcoming episodes. We'll also be talking about the U18 male prep Buffaloes coming up next week and the results in their upcoming 4 games that start this morning down in Summerlin, BC against ISA, which is Indigenous Sports Academy. We'll have the full schedule for the U18 male prep Buffaloes coming up next year as we say goodbye to Gordy on this edition of the Buffaloes podcast. Gordy, thank you as always for coming on, and can't wait to talk about this U18 male prep Buffs group next week, as well as all the great development stuff Pilot Mound has in store coming up this year.
Well, thanks, Graham, and good luck with your pay-per-view and all the other good things that you're working on. You're getting better, just like the Buffaloes are. Go Buffs, go, go Graham, go.
And Gordy Tummelson joining this edition of the Buffaloes podcast here on G Show Productions on gshow.ca is, yeah, the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy Buffaloes U17 prep program, man. What a run this team goes on, losing their first game of the playoffs and then running the table afterwards, not losing after that, and avenging their first loss of the playoffs against North Shore in the finals, winning 7-0. What a way to end it after winning a close one to get by St. George's 4-3, and for the Buffalo squad, with the opportunity to bring a good group, a good chunk of these players back next year, while also adding on to this program. Be interesting to see what U15s make their way up into the U17 group next year. As, yeah, for the U15s, obviously not ending the season the way they wanted to end it, but still making it all to the finals, building great experience and confidence moving forward through this playoff run. Their big time players show out. Their goaltending showed out in many ways as well in the playoffs, and just not quite able to get it done in that championship matchup. But lots to look forward to, I think, for Colin Fafara, Brad Platt to end this group. Heading into next year of who may be back and what other new faces they'll be bringing in. As for the female U18 prep Buffaloes, I think, even though losing all of their games this past week, in the playoffs. I think that this group still has to be proud of how they kept everything close in the end of things. And for Kurt Fortney and Ryan Carroll's, two coaches that could potentially be back next year, my money would be on that. They built the building blocks, I think, of something that could be a big step forward for the U18 female prep program moving forward. The biggest thing they got to focus on, I think, is trying to recruit a bit more better talent. Not to knock any of the girls that played on the team this year. All of them gave it their best. But something that factually this team has been lacking is a big time goal scorer, a natural goal scorer who it will be interesting to see who Pilot Mountain adds next year. They're going to be losing some quality players, but they're going to have some quality players coming back that can build off of this year's experiences. As for the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy Buffaloes, what's still to come is for this U18 group, they're going to be, well, they already have been playing in the playoffs. Their final matchup of the round robin play in the playoffs is going to come tomorrow morning against Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy. But this is what we just showed you a moment ago. I mean, this is what it's all about, getting to go down and playing in BC. Not only getting to play high-level hockey, but also getting to check out the views. A fantastic moment for this group to be able to do that. The last team to get their playoffs going, as we'll bring you up to date with how the scores have gone for this group so far in the postseason, as they ended up winning yesterday against Notre Dame. As for against ISA, they ended up winning their opener of the tournament. So they were 2-0 to start things off, and of course they played this morning as well against Wenatchee Wild Hockey Academy. We'll have the updates on how the male U18 Prep Buffaloes playoff schedule ended up playing out. But so far, so good heading into today, 2-0, setting themselves up nicely heading into the weekend. As for us here at G Show Productions, we've been going through a busy time in these past few weeks. Just to let you all know, we've started a pay-per-view service. Me and Gordy talked about it. I want to give you some more insight into it, Buffaloes fans. Just to let you know, we put all of our content on hold for this, really. We haven't been podcasting for really the past few weeks, it feels like. Haven't been focusing on that as much because we've started up a pay-per-view service to have the ability for the people who watch our MMJHL games to watch it for $5. All of the money, of course, ends up going to G Show Productions, and then we're going to be distributing it 50-50 down the line with the MMJHL, so the money goes back to that league for them to benefit their league how they see fit. And yeah, we believe here in G Show Productions and giving back to, of course, the leagues, our sponsors, the people that allow us to be able to do this content and to be broadcasting games and stuff like that, right? In the MMJHL as we have for the past 2 years. And yeah, since it's playoff time and the MMJHL wants to start seeing a bit of return on their investment, and that's fair, and we do too, because we put in a lot of time to live stream games. We're charging $5 for playoff games in the MMJHL on a service called Uscreen. We're going to bring it up right now, actually, to show you all the websites. So if you want to check it out, it's gshowproductions.uscreen.io is where you can visit the website to check it out, and simply go into here. The subscribe to watch option isn't there right now, as this is kind of a testing phase, so we're just doing strictly $5 to buy the game, and then you end up having it forever. And then here the payment details and all that, pretty simple. You just gotta put those in. But yeah, G Show Productions, this will pull it up right here, link to make it more visible. That's where you can check out all the MMJHL playoff games. And yeah, I think the biggest thing for us when taking this into account as well, when putting up this service, is just making sure that the league is also profiting from it, not just us. So that's why that 50-50 revenue split is in place with us and the league. We're going to have all of the action in those playoffs coming up until the end of it. Currently in the quarterfinals right now, we got a matchup that we're going to be streaming tonight between the Fort Garry Twins and the Raiders Junior Hockey Club. So Also got a game on Sunday too. We may be adding 2 to the schedule. Not too sure yet, as we're gonna try to broadcast, as I said, as many games as possible in that league through the playoffs. So the gets the best bang for their buck. We also get the best bang for our buck as possible. But as for players that could potentially be looking to join Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, the U15 male prep evaluation camps are coming up on March 21st. So a week from now, all the way until that Sunday, March 21st to the 23rd. So next weekend at Blackjack Stewart Arena. Carson Carroll is, of course, one of the most notable players. I'd say the most notable player to come out of this program. And yeah, you want a potential to play in the same uniform as Carson Carroll's did, a future NHL draft pick. Very well could be a first round draft pick. It's looking very strong for that to be the case in his draft year coming up. I believe it's 2026. But yeah, if you want a chance to don the same jersey as Carson did, your U15 level player in that age group, be sure to potentially check this out at Blackjack Stewart Arena in Pilot Mound, Manitoba, as that's where their ID camps are being held next weekend starting on Friday. Visit pilotmountainhockeyacademy.com as well as their social media handles at PM Buffaloes for more info. As for us, our Week 23 podcast schedule continues tomorrow with the MFHL podcast, the MMJHL podcast, and the Manitoba Hockey podcast. We'll have the latest from around Manitoba hockey in the MB Hockey podcast, the latest from around the MMJHL playoffs as they started up last Friday. Crazy how the hockey season just continues to fly by here. We're also going to be previewing the big game coming up in the MFHL U18 AAA League on Sunday night in Winnipeg as the Winnipeg Ice and Winnipeg Avros square off in a winner-take-all Game 5 to see who advances to face off against the Eastman Selects in the finals of that league. Next week on the Buffaloes podcast, hoping to be joined by Rick McConnell as well as some other coaches, maybe even some players from around Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, as we're shooting to make it a playoff type of special episode to really celebrate everything that's gone down in the postseason for the Buffaloes so far. We're going to be showing you some content that Pilot Mound has put up on their YouTube channels, which you can go check out now, their playoff recaps. Just wanted to wait for all of the teams to wrap up as they'll probably be posting the U18 male prep recap coming up once their postseason ends. But yeah, it's been a blast this year, Buffaloes fans. We're going to continue to bring you some great content here coming up until the end of the season, as we still got plenty left to talk about in this next month, and maybe even doing quite a few episodes in next month in April. We still haven't decided, but we do know that we will be returning next week for sure for episode 26 in season 2 to bring you more news from around Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy and how their teams have done in the playoffs. We're going to hit you with one more transition here, a commercial break actually, and then we are going to get into some final words on this edition of the Buffaloes podcast on season 2, episode 25, here on G Show Productions on gshow.ca. Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia offers the widest selection of sports cards and signed memorabilia in the city. For dedicated casual and new collectors, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia has everything a collector could ask for. Everything we sell is stored with care, and with help from our knowledgeable team, we'll help you find exactly what you're looking for. We carry Upper Deck hockey card brands like Series 1 and 2, the Cup, Ultimate, SPA, and plenty more. So what are you waiting for? Come down to Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Winnipeg's premier sports cards and memorabilia store. Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools has been the place to shop for your industrial needs for over 20 years. Carrying the tools you need to get the job done from the brands you can trust, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools has you covered. Brands like Milwaukee Tool, established in 1924 and on display in our Milwaukee Red Zone, the largest red zone in Winnipeg. With construction workers and tradespeople in mind, McCann Fasteners and Tools is your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs. So come on down to our Winnipeg store location today, located on 1557 King Edward Street in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Welcome back to the Buffaloes podcast, season 2, episode 25 here. I just want to see if CSSHL has got this game posted between U18 Male Prep Buffaloes from this morning. They took on Wenatchee Hockey Academy, as mentioned. We'll see if we can pull up the schedule once again here, as they'll be finishing off their 4 games that have been scheduled so far in the playoffs against Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy tomorrow, and then they'll wait for who they face off in the championship rounds of their U18 prep division playoff schedule. But as for the U18 male prep Buffaloes, is pulling it up right now in the schedule. As for Pilot Mound, they ended up winning 5-1 against Wenatchee Hockey Academy this morning. So Pilot Mound tomorrow going to be taking on Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy, and then they have punched their ticket into the championship round. So with 3-0, I just taking a look at the standings here, I don't think any team has been better than this Buffaloes team so far in this. So just take a look. But exciting times in Pilot Mountain. I mean, 3 of their programs out of the 4 are going to be playing in championship play, potentially, as, if they're able to win tomorrow against Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy, they'd be the home team, as Coeur d'Alene Hockey Academy is currently tied with the Buffaloes with a 3-0 record. Which has sent Pilot Mountain into the finals. So we're going to have the recap on that finals, that championship game coming up with Gordy Tummelson in next week's edition of the Buffaloes podcast. We're hoping to hear from as many coaches as possible, as many players as we can get as possible on the podcast for next week's show. And just going to be a time to celebrate the great finish to what's been another year of improvement and great development for this Buffalo squad. Not only strong on the ice, in the classroom as well this year, as we've talked about before, and all their teams making noise in British Columbia. You love to see it. We'll have a full recap on all the playoffs coming up next week. Enjoy the weekend, Buffaloes fans. We'll see you on Wednesday. Full podcast schedule will be out way earlier next week, as our busy time continues. The busy time in the hockey world continues, but in 5 days from now. We'll see you then. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe out there. Enjoy some of the nice weather if it's getting nicer where you're at. I know here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, it's kind of gotten colder a bit, but still spring feels like it's on its way. Tyson Unruh is going to finish this episode off by sending us out with his March of the Buffaloes theme, Juno Award winner, doing it right. Take care, everybody. See you next week.